Have you checked the drawers? Reuben began pulling out everything that was in the drawer, dumping the contents untidily wherever there was space. Nothing, Reuben sighed. Check in the kitchen. Reuben shoved everything messily back into the drawer and shuffled towards the kitchen. Lucas continued to scroll down the page on the laptop, listening to the sound of pots and pans being thrown about and doors banging loudly. There's a job going in the bakery, Lucas called to his brother. Just down the road, you know the one. Reuben popped his head round the door. I'm not wearing a hairnet. Lucas snapped the laptop shut, turning with his arm on the back of the chair. We're going to have to get a job soon or else we won't be able to pay for anything. The money for this place automatically gets taken out of her bank account every month, Reuben argued. I know that, Lucas huffed in irritation. But what about food? We can't eat the furniture, can we? Good point, Reuben mused. The cupboards are near enough empty. She could have at least done a shop before she left. Lucas groaned, rubbing his forehead with a hand. Did you find anything? Found this. Reuben produced a coin. £2. He looked to his older brother. £1 each? We could go to the shop and buy something nice. Oh, how dire our situation has become. All right, let's go. Reuben tossed the coin in the air, and Lucas caught it as he rose from his seat. So where's Jacob gone, then? Reuben asked, picking up a hoodie from the back of the chair and putting it on. He's on holiday with his parents to visit family. Cousins and grandparents, you know. I wonder what it's like to have a big family, Reuben thought aloud. Must be nice, his brother said, forlorn. Oh well, so what are you going to get? I don't know, Lucas shrugged. Lion bar? What are we going to eat later? Let's not worry about that until later comes, Lucas said, grabbing him round the shoulders and walking with him towards the door. Aren't we going to lock it? Reuben asked as they left. Why? It's not like there's anything to steal. We could sell the TV, if things get really desperate. Lucas shrugged again. I don't see why not. Sounds like a good idea. He turned and locked the door behind them. Once they were outside, it was only a short walk towards the shop where on the way they met Drake and Lorelei. Hey look, there's Drake and Lorelei, Reuben called as he spotted them approaching. Lucas groaned as Reuben ran towards them. Hey guys! Reuben, Lorelei beamed, slowing to a stop. So good to see you. Beside her, Drake smirked and gave a nod. Where are you two off to? Reuben asked as Lucas, dragging his feet, followed his brother. There's a show here today. Lorelei smiled. We're just going off to see. A show? Reuben asked. There are two brothers performing as street dancers, Drake replied. They're supposed to be very good. I've heard about them, Reuben said. Never actually seen them before, though. Hey, why don't you come along with us? Lorelei volunteered. It'll be even more fun with more of us. Maybe some other time, Lucas interjected, before Reuben could agree and result in them all being dragged around the town by her. Lorelei pouted, deflating. Disappointment was written all over her face. Lucas, you're such a bore sometimes. The two glared at each other. We could meet you later, Reuben thought aloud suddenly, causing Lucas to wince. Lucas turned and glared at Reuben now. Where is it exactly? Reuben asked, ignoring his brother. In the centre of town, Lorelei said, becoming suddenly animated again and bouncing on the balls of her feet. Drake had to steady himself as she used him for support. It should be easy enough to find, she smiled. Just follow the crowd. Good, Reuben nodded. We'll see you there. Lucas shrugged. I told Cian we'll be there tomorrow, Drake said to Lucas. You did? Good. Lucas suddenly perked up. His stomach growled then. Well, we'd better go now, Reuben said. We'll meet you later, okay? Great, Lorelei cried out excitedly. Don't be late. Drake touched a finger to his forehead and nodded at them before he was dragged off by Lorelei. Once they were out of earshot, Lucas spoke to his brother. Why did you do that? What? Volunteer to go to this stupid show. You don't want to go? Reuben asked. I don't want to go with her. Don't be like that. Reuben frowned at Lucas, shaking his head. I know she can be annoying sometimes, but she's not that bad. Don't be like that, Reuben said again. She just never shuts up. Reuben shrugged. Stick your fingers in your ears. Lucas made a strange face. How peculiar would I look walking around doing that? Reuben smirked in amusement. Come on, Lucas said, marching away. Let's hurry up and buy some food. I'm starving. They walked for a short time before Lucas spoke again. We've got to be careful, Lucas told his brother seriously. She seems to want to spend a lot of time with us. We have to be careful she doesn't see our magic. She won't. Oh, you seem certain. They came to the edge of the pavement to cross the road. Lucas suddenly grabbed Reuben by the sleeve and pulled him sharply back. The car sped by, and Lucas relaxed his arm, letting go of Reuben. How can you be so sure? Lucas continued their conversation as if nothing had happened. Well, as long as we're careful, there will be no mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, Lucas replied. I worry sometimes that she'll find out. They crossed the road at a quickened pace, careful to avoid the cars. The weekend was always busy here, especially on sunny days like today. We have to ensure our mistakes are kept to a minimum, Lucas went on. I thought we were doing that. We can never be too careful, especially around her. Lucas paused momentarily, taking in the environment. Let's go through the skate park. You want to avoid the crowds? I would like to avoid people altogether, Lucas said, stepping forwards. But in a town like this and on the weekend, it's impossible. They changed course and went in the opposite direction to where they were originally heading. It was only a short detour to the shops this way, and the best way to go to avoid most of the people. The skate park, when they reached it, was thankfully not too busy. Plastered with thick graffiti on every possible surface, the skate park was a large one, giving lots of space to the people within. Some people did tricks on the rams and half-pipes. Others hung around in groups watching the world around them. Everything was brightly coloured here, including the people who resided here. They wore trashy jeans and bright shirts, some with backwards caps. The brothers passed a wall. There was an image of a large, lidless eye staring unseeing outwards alongside a psycho rabbit that was devouring heads. A skater swerved around the brothers as they sauntered through the park, and they watched their step as they walked. It was easy to have an accident in a place like this. The sound of the wheels rolling on the concrete, boards grinding on the rails, and the muttering of voices from the groups that had gathered continued as constant noises overlapped each other. Everything should have been normal, but there was something out of the ordinary here today, something that few could see. Lucas slowed to a stop, eyes sliding across the park. What's wrong? Reuben asked, pausing and glancing back at him. Lucas? Reuben could not see his brother's face from where he stood, but he knew something wasn't right. He walked back to him, following his gaze. Hey, is that the new girl? Lucas didn't reply. I heard her name is Rian. Lucas approached her silently, with Reuben slinking behind. Rian was kneeling by one of the graffiti-covered walls, wearing her typical dark colours. As the brothers approached, they saw what it was that had caught her attention. From a distance they had not seen, as she had blocked their view. Lucas circled around, coming to stand in front of her. Finally, Rian lifted her head, acknowledging them at last. At a glance, she seemed weary, exhausted. Her eyes were sunken and her hair was scruffy. It looked as if she hadn't slept. The creature she was kneeling before was a thing the brothers had never seen in their lives. Lying on his front, seemingly unconscious, was a creature resembling a human in shape, but with the black skin of an aberrant. With flesh the shade of coal, he had large wings at his back, leathery and bat-like they were, and bearing huge curled hooks on the joint. His hair, jet black like the rest of him, grew down to his shoulders, and he had a long thin tail that ended in a point. His chest was bare, and he wore black, wide-legged trousers. Lucas had the strangest thought at that moment. Ha! He barked a laugh. He wears black just like you do. What are you implying? Rian glared. She rose to a stand. I don't even know who you are. Let's keep it that way. Lucas replied. Hey, I'm Reuben, Reuben said, stepping forward with a smile. Rian's upper lip twitched and she crossed her arms in disdain. The figure on the ground lay peacefully, as if he were only asleep. His face was young, and his skin was sleek and smooth and flawless. You can see him? Rian asked them. What do you mean? None of the others can see him. I've watched several people walk past, some even glancing this way. And it was true. The skaters carried on, seemingly oblivious to the presence of the strange being simply lying in plain sight. Wait a minute, Reuben spoke up. You're a guardian. Rian scowled at him. Is he the smarter of you two? She asked Lucas. Lucas began to laugh hysterically. Oh, come on, Reuben, don't look so angry, he said to his brother when he calmed. Rian circled around the brothers, moving away from the winged being on the floor. I saw fighting, Rian told them. There are more of them. I don't know if it's entirely safe here right now. Are you scared? Lucas asked, raising his eyebrows. Of course not, Rian spat. Lucas smirked, feeling a strange satisfaction at getting under her skin. Beside him, Reuben was positively quivering with excitement. There have been aberrants walking around lately, he said. Have you seen them? I fought them, Rian answered. You have skills in fighting? Reuben asked with interest, looking her up and down. How nice. I was brought up fighting, Rian said. I saw my first aberrant when I was very young. Why do they appear? Lucas asked her. We've never seen one before, but somehow we know what they are. Rian smirked then, amused by their lack of knowledge. You don't know much about being a guardian, do you? Lucas felt a twinge of annoyance, but he'd be damned if he let her know by showing it. You want to know what attracts them, what draws them out? She said. The brothers waited patiently for a response. Philosopher's Stone, Rian breathed. There is one here. Where did you hear that? Lucas asked slowly, narrowing his eyes. Rian stopped circling, turning to face them now. I have seen visions of another world where there are many guardians. Like us, there are philosopher's stones there. It's where they originated, but some fled here. Fled? Lucas asked. You mean these things have a mind of their own? Is that your power? Reuben butt in. Seeing this other world? It is one of my powers, she replied curtly. Reuben began to fumble his words. Lucas knew he was deciding which questions to ask first, but in his enthusiasm he came across as a jabbering fool. Lucas knelt by the black-skinned figure on the ground, suddenly noticing how tall he was. At least a head taller than the average man. He also noticed something else. Reuben, look at this. What is it? These marks, Lucas replied. The ground has been scorched. It's on the walls as well, Reuben suddenly noticed. Rian watched the brothers skeptically. Lucas became suddenly rigid. We have to get out of here. Why? Reuben asked, worried by his brother's urgent change of tone. He glanced around nervously. Is it safe? Rising fast, Lucas whipped round, turning on the spot. Lucas, Reuben said in a steady tone, Lucas, you're scaring me. The following events were the start of a life completely new, a life in a different direction, a life as a true guardian. This is the first thing in my life, Reuben whispered in awe, head tilted back as the shadow passed over them, that I've ever seen one like this. I knew we shouldn't have stayed here, Rian said, backing away. I knew it was dangerous. The beast cried out in many voices, a high-pitched screech over a moaning noise that sounded almost like the wind. It was a terrible thing to hear, like an agonizing cry of pain and despair. Aberrant, Rian whispered. It came, crawling up and over the wall they had been standing by. Its movement was graceful yet exaggerated. It was a tall creature, strange in appearance, with a thin body and very long legs that ended in sharp, unforgiving talons. Its neck was shaped like that of a horse, and it had a small oval head, narrow eyes and a thin, scraggly mane. The most bizarre thing about this aberrant, however, was its mouth. It was long like a tube, with what looked like sharp inward curved teeth at the opening on the end. Running all the way down the tube were creases, like the kind one might find on an umbrella. Its mouth was like this. The aberrant swung its mighty head over them, letting out a prolonged hiss, advancing on them menacingly. The three backed away quickly. Reuben cast his palms out, summoning flames that wreathed the flesh of his hands. Quick, use your magic! The aberrant moved towards them, following their movement carefully as they backed away further. Its look was far too intelligent for one's liking. It was as if the thing was assessing them. The beast paused and flicked its lizard-like tail, swinging its long mouth from side to side. What are you doing? Rian hissed at Reuben. She grabbed him by the arm and jerked him towards her. The fires went out. You can't kill it, she told him. You're not strong enough. It's too big. Who are you to tell me that? He growled, yanking his arm out of her grip. You have no idea about my powers. Lucas took another step away, concentration fixed on the aberrant, which was advancing again. Guys, it's coming closer, Lucas informed them, uncertainty lacing his voice. Have you ever fought these beasts before? Rian snapped at Reuben, turning on him. And you have, Reuben retorted. Are you even listening? Lucas stepped further away. I've been a guardian a lot longer than you have, Rian went on. How the hell would you know something like that? It's coming, Lucas called over both of them. I know a lot of things you don't, Rian said, balling her fists in fury, ignoring Lucas's cries. That's not an answer, Reuben shot back. It's good enough. The aberrant is rather close, Lucas said. Then show me your powers, Reuben demanded. I'm not under your control, she screeched. She grabbed him again. Are you stupid enough to use magic in front of these people? Guys! The beast opened its mouth and roared. Their clothes and hair were blown back violently in the sudden gale. Its mouth had opened out into a massive pentagon shape. The long tube of its mouth had opened outwards like a massive umbrella, and now this was all they saw, teeth and tongue and the pink inside of its fleshy mouth in one massive shape. Reuben saw fast movement out of the corner of his eye, though he didn't acknowledge it. He was fixed to the spot, by awe, by fear, by shock. He didn't know which. The aberrant closed its mouth again, shrinking it back into its tubular form. Reuben realized now that Rian was not with him. Realizing the movement out of the corner of his eye must have been her. He spotted her, standing on a half-pipe a safe distance away. There were black wings coming out of her back. Feathered they were, like an angel's. Reuben simply stared at her, dumbfounded, feeling too many emotions to put a label to any of them. "Reuben!" his brother called. Reuben shifted his sights back to the creature before him. It hissed again, sensing his weakness and targeting it. The aberrant in one swift movement swung its mighty clawed hand. Its range of attack was far. Its long limbs stretched outwards and claws unfurling. In his frozen state, Reuben could not react, locked in what was now only pure fear. He was suddenly shoved aside by his brother, tasting the pavement. He heard his brother cry out before him, saw him fall to his knees. Behind the strange-mouthed beast, the unconscious guardian was stirring. Lucas began to shake. There were 3 deep gashes in his side, and blood spilling down the left side of his body at an alarming rate. Reuben pushed himself up, wiping his chin with the back of a hand. As he did so, and feeling blood there, he ran to his brother, falling to his knees. Lucas's body tensed, his hands were shaking violently as he held his injury, trying in vain to stop the bleeding. The first stage of shock was setting in, and Reuben could see his brother was paling fast. Lucas had never felt pain like it before, but then again he was still a young guardian. "Lucas?" Lucas lifted his head, saying in a trembling voice to Reuben, "Are you all right?" Reuben didn't answer. The guardian, who had been unconscious mere moments ago, had risen, standing now with wings splayed and tail flicking from side to side. He had a menacing dark aura about him. He circled calmly around the aberrant, coming to stand before it. "Please don't hurt us," Reuben thought as the winged being drew closer. The stranger stood now between the brothers and the aberrant. In his dark hands he held sharkrams. With many great spikes around its circular edges, the metal was painted vividly in black and red. These were weapons he had summoned from the very air itself, weapons that were wreathed in flame. This was his magic. He charged forwards with all the speed, agility, and confidence of one born into war, a true guardian. The winged stranger threw out both his weapons before him. Spinning them in the air, they created a wall of fire, which blazed and roared fiercely. The aberrant screeched in fear as the fire burned bright, forcing it backwards. It scuttled, like a panicked animal trapped on ice, trying to get away. Tripping over its own exaggerated limbs, it ran. The black-skinned stranger released his magic with a sharp intake of breath, weapons vanishing into thin air. Reuben tore his eyes away and looked to where Rian had stood not moments before, only to see that she wasn't there. "She's gone," Reuben gasped in horror. "She left us." The winged guardian approached the brothers, staring expressionlessly over Lucas. Lucas had fallen on his side, still holding himself, curled up and groaning in agony. "Please don't hurt us," Reuben asked. "Please help him." The black guardian knelt over Lucas, grabbing his arm and forcing it up with a hard grip, all the better to see the wound. The gashes were deep, and there were 3 of them. He would surely bleed to death in minutes. It was lucky in that instance that the stranger was not only an experienced guardian, but also a healer as well.